Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today we're looking at a truly fascinating clash between a broadcasting giant, ABS CBN, and a 19-year showbiz veteran, Clara Magno. This is a case that went all the way to the Philippine Supreme Court, and let me tell you, it's got some incredible twists and turns about loyalty, contracts, and the very definition of what it actually means to have a job in the modern world.
I mean, think about it. Can you work for a company for almost 2 decades and still legally not be considered their employee? It sounds pretty impossible, right? But this is exactly the mystery that fueled a massive legal drama. It's one of those situations that forces us to look past our everyday assumptions and really dig deep into the actual mechanics of labor law.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Back in 1992, Clara Maimo was hired by ABS-CBN to work as a videotape recorder or VTR playback operator. Fast forward 10 years to 2002, the network placed her in something called the Internal Job Market System, essentially a pool of what they labeled talents or independent contractors. Then, jump ahead to 2010, she gets assigned to a popular noontime show called Pilipinas Win Now Win. So that's the massive trajectory of her career. 19 years. Literally 19 years of continuous service. She was showing up, doing the work, and operating the playback systems that kept these television programs running smoothly day in and day out. You would naturally think that sheer length of undeniable loyalty equates to permanence, right? Well, in 2010, a sudden workplace conflict erupted that entirely shattered that assumption. And here we have the central tug of war. ABS-CBN argued that Magno was merely an independent contractor. They claimed she was a talent hired through their specialized system because of her unique technical skills, meaning no formal employer-employee relationship ever existed. But Magno? She argued the exact opposite. She claimed she was absolutely a regular employee, pointing right at her 19 years of controlled, necessary service to the network. So I invite you to mentally play the judge for a second. Who do you think is actually right here? To solve this mystery, we have to look at the legal mechanics and ask the big question: how does the law actually decide who is an employee? Because, as we're quickly finding out, it clearly isn't just about how long you've been sitting at your desk or what the company decides to call you on a piece of paper. The answer actually lies in something called the fourfold test. This is the exact legal standard the Supreme Court uses to cut through all the noise and figure out if an employer-employee relationship genuinely exists. And this brilliantly illustrates how the court takes complex legal jargon and anchors it into a highly practical, everyday workplace concept that we can all wrap our heads around. So let's quickly walk through the checklist. Number 1, selection and engagement. Basically, did the company directly hire you? Number 2, payment of wages. Number 3, the power of dismissal. Do they actually have the authority to fire you? And number 4, which the court always stresses is the most important element of the whole shebang, the power of control. Does the company control not just what you do, but exactly how you do it? Well, when you apply that test, ABS-CBN unequivocally passed it, even though they heavily labeled her a mere talent. They issued her a company ID. They paid her salaries directly and withheld her taxes. They paid her PhilHealth and SSS benefits. And crucially, they supervised her work assignments and closely monitored her performance. This wasn't some independent freelancer calling the shots. This was a closely managed, day-to-day worker. And that brings us to the first major win for Clara Magno. The Supreme Court outright declared her a regular employee. They ruled that operating VTRs was entirely necessary and desirable to the very business of television broadcasting. I mean, you simply cannot run a TV network without people playing back the videotapes, right? Therefore, despite whatever that talent contract said, she was, under the law, a regular, fully protected employee. But hold on, the drama doesn't end there. We have a second mystery to unravel. Because while she absolutely was an employee, her time at ABS-CBN did come to a really abrupt end shortly after a highly controversial dinner with TV host Willie Revelame. So the next burning question is, was she illegally fired, as she claims, or did she voluntarily quit? Let's contrast the two stories here. Magno claimed constructive dismissal, which is a legal term basically meaning the work environment was made so incredibly hostile that she was forced to leave. She alleged that after attending that dinner, her superiors called her disloyal, stopped giving her assignments, and effectively pushed her out the door.
ABS-CBN firmly denied this. They claimed she simply resigned voluntarily because she wanted to follow the TV host to his brand new show on a competing network.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the actual resignation letter she submitted. Listen to the tone here. I would like to thank you for having me as part of your team and work for almost 19 years. Right? This is the smoking gun that severely undermines her claim of being aggressively forced out. The Supreme Court noted that this amicable, cordial language just doesn't line up at all with a story of a coerced, hostile termination.
And the evidence gets even stronger. In court records from a completely different civil case involving the TV host and ABS-CBN, Magno and other staff members actually intervened and literally put it in writing that they opted to resign and followed the host because they were disgusted with how the network treated him. They explicitly stated they relinquished their job security to join his new show, Willing Willie. So, because the evidence heavily pointed to a voluntary exit, we get to verdict part 2. Clara Magno was not illegally dismissed. Her claim of constructive dismissal fails completely. And because she wasn't illegally fired, all her massive claims for millions in separation pay, back wages, and damages, they just completely collapse. Simply put, you cannot get illegal dismissal compensation if you willingly chose to walk out the door. Which leads us to the ultimate plot twist of this explainer. If Magno proved she was a regular employee, but ABS-CBN proved they didn't illegally fire her, who actually won this massive legal battle?
So the crucial point is that this was a highly nuanced split decision. On the issue of whether she was an employee, Magno wins. She is officially recognized as a regular employee with all the rights that come with it. But on the issue of the firing, ABS-CBN wins. The resignation was deemed totally voluntary. It's just incredible to see how both sides won and both sides lost simultaneously. Because of this unique tie, the Supreme Court delivered a really fascinating remedy. Step 1, because there was no illegal firing, but also no legal abandonment of her job, since, she was busy fighting this massive court case, ABS-CBN must accept her back to her former position. However, absolutely no back wages are paid. They essentially just return to the status quo. Step 2, if she refuses to go back, she is officially deemed voluntarily resigned. The court essentially ruled that in a situation like this, each party just bears their own economic loss. It's an absolutely incredible resolution to a 19-year saga. In an age where gig work, freelancing, and independent contracts are literally everywhere, what really defines our loyalty and our rights? Is it the label slapped onto a contract or the reality of the daily grind? This case proves that the law looks past the paperwork to the truth of the work itself. Keep this in mind next time you look at your own workplace realities, because you never know when those details might just change everything.